Hello, INSTAMOMS and dads, and welcome back to my channel. This meal is not very instant, but as you saw in the title, it is beef stroganoff pasta that is going to be made from scratch. So first we're going to start here with some beef stew meat, and this is 1.5 pounds. No, it's like a little bit more than 1.5 pounds. The first thing I'm going to do is cut the meat up. They come in pretty big pieces like this, and I'm just gonna cut them in half. Some are much larger, and I cut those into 3. Instead of in half, I cut them into like thirds. But you're just gonna cut these up like so, and make sure you're using a pretty sharp knife. This is a Cutco knife. It's very sharp to help you cut the meat up. This is a piece that I am going to cut more than in half because it's pretty big. So I was able to get 3 pieces out of that. You can cook these whole the way that they come, or you can cut them up into smaller pieces. It is totally up to you how you want to do that, but this is the way that I do mine. Okay, I'm going to show you guys how to cut them up on a cutting board, because the other way it was just taking me way too long, and so I decided to go ahead and do this on the cutting board. I'm going to cut some up, and then I am going to pause the video and go ahead and finish cutting those up. But for now, I'm just going to chop a few, and then I'm gonna leave and come back to help you with the next step. Okay, so now that our meat is all chopped up, we're just going to season the meat itself. And I am going to use 1 teaspoon of seasoning salt, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, and a teaspoon of black pepper. If you don't like food to be really spicy, just use a 1/2 teaspoon Then I'm just gonna add my olive oil. I use the extra virgin olive oil, just a cap full of that to bring all those ingredients together, and also to keep some of the oil when we fry the meat. So I'm just going to use a fork to mix it all in together. You do want to make sure you mix this well, just to make sure all of the meat is evenly seasoned. So I'm just kind of taking my time with this, flipping and flipping to make sure that every piece of meat is seasoned and slightly oiled. Now I am going to brown these with flour. You do not have to do this. You can skip this step. It's just regular all-purpose flour, and the reason that I do this is to make my sauce thicker. If you don't like a thick, chunky type of sauce, then skip this part. Do not add flour. You're just going to sear the beef in oil. So once you fill the bag, you want to shake the meat around and get it completely covered. Another way you could do this is put a little flour on a plate, but I'm so used to doing this, I use the bag of flour. It's very important that you get every piece of meat out of that flour if you plan to use the beef again. As you can see, it's still not completely covered, so I'm going to shake it up again. Another way to get these out is to put them in a strainer. I actually would recommend you do that. When you take them out, put them in a strainer. That way you have no excess flour. But because I kind of make this gravy and this really thick sauce, I like to do it this way. Now here I have my pan, and I'm just putting just enough oil to cover the bottom of the pan. You do not need, this is not deep frying, so you don't need a lot of oil. So I'm just spreading the oil around in the pan because my stove is leaning back, so most of the oil is going to one side, and I just want to make sure I have oil on all sides. So we're just going to let the grease get hot, and you'll notice my grease is starting to smoke and it's starting to look different in the pan. It's hot. So once it's hot, you're just going to add in your beef pieces. I do not do this a little bit at a time. I just put them all in there because all of the crumbles that it's going to make, I'm going to use that as with my sauce to make it like a thick gravy sauce. This is the part where I was saying to skip the flour. If you notice, as I'm putting the meat in there, the flour is falling in as well, and it's going to soak up some of that grease. So it's kind of like making gravy from scratch. If you like more of a thin, creamy sauce, do not use flour. You're just going to skip the flour and you're going to sear your meat on both sides with just the meat and the oil. The oil I'm using is a canola oil. You can use vegetable oil, you can use extra virgin olive oil, whatever works for you. I'm using Crisco canola oil. Weston's canola oil. Crisco is just my favorite. So here I'm just flipping them over because you want to sear them on both sides. You do not need to cook them all the way through because they will finish cooking in the sauce. So you're just going to brown both sides. Flip them, each one, flip them over, flip them over. This is the way to make your meat tender. If you put this beef in just liquid alone, your meat is going to be kind of tough. So to tenderize your meat, you do want to brown it on both sides. Okay, now that that is done, we want to boil some water and add our pasta. If you are a beginner in the kitchen, do not add your pasta until the water is boiling. You want to boil your water for boil your noodles for about 10 minutes. You don't want them too soft. You want them to be al dente. If you like overcooked noodles, that's fine, but when making a sauce, your noodles are still going to kind of cook in the meat sauce. So make sure you boil your noodles for about 10 minutes. Check them and taste it. If it still has a very slight crunch, then it's al dente. If you want it overcooked, let it go and it will be mush. Or soft, I should say. I am so sorry, guys. Some way I have the rest of my footage was deleted. So I'm just going to tell you exactly what I did after cooking the pasta. I went ahead and strained the pasta and set it to the side. Do not run water on your pasta, just set it to the side. And then inside of the pot with the meat, I added 1 cup of water and 1 cup of milk. You can use milk or heavy whipping cream. It helps to make it rich. I also poured in 2 packs of Stroganoff sauce mix, and on the back of that package it tells you 1 package to 1.5 pound of meat. I used 1 packet per pound. If you notice, I do that with all of my meals. If I'm using a package, I use 1 pack per pound of meat. Also, I added a half cup, which is 8 ounces of sour cream. I poured all of that right inside of the meat. I did not take the meat out and strain it or anything. After you sear that meat, you're going to add all of those ingredients I just mentioned in the meat, stir it up, and let it simmer. Once you start to notice that the liquid is simmering out, you just turn the fire off and let it sit for about 5 minutes, and dinner is served. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Don't forget the notification bell so you don't miss another meal. Thank you again, my instant moms and dads. You guys have a wonderful day. You can also share this video with your friends by just hitting the share button. Don't forget, guys, another day above ground is another day to get it right. Be blessed.